What's up, guys? It's the Essential John L. Crossfire.
And I am Nova Lee.
And you guys are tuned into Caught
in Conversation.
Shaka laka laka. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 170 of Caught in Conversation. As always, I am your host, the Essential John L. Crossfire. And the fact that we are 170 episodes, like we're pushing 200 episodes. Podcast just turned 4 years old. And even with the hiatus that we had to have for the duration of 2022, we're still pushing, still grinding. It might have even been 2023 I had to have the hiatus. I can't even remember. I think it was 2023. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. 170 episodes. And today we have the NWA National Heavyweight Champion, Big Strong MIMS. And the reason that this episode is called Getting It Handled is pretty self-explanatory in a way once you hear this, but basically MIMS is very big about just hard work and just getting shit done or getting it handled. And yeah, this conversation was very fun. We talked very in-depth considering the short amount of time that we were speaking for. MIMS went really in-depth with a lot of his answers and shed light on a lot of insight into like his younger mindset as a fan and then becoming a wrestler, and you know, just reflecting on what he has done so far and what he wants to do. And yeah, just I believe so when I put this out and when you have the thumbnail, it'll say talking fate, discipline, future goals, and perspective. And I think he says a little thing in here when he talks about a character should be able to be summed up in one sentence. So that's this episode summed up in one sentence is fate, discipline, future goals, and perspective. I feel like it's a great way to wrap up everything we talk about, and you'll just have to listen to the conversation to hear exactly what we talk about. But MIMS was very, very insightful, as I said, in this conversation, and I was very appreciative of that fact, and just the fact that he was on the show to begin with. And once again, Nova Lee would like for me to apologize for the fact that she isn't here. As I record this intro and outro, she just had a follow-up appointment today with her surgeon, and they're very, very happy with her progress and her healing, and she's well and truly on the right track. So it's good. It's great. Literally, as this episode goes out, the week that this episode drops, obviously, if you're listening on Patreon, you're actually getting this episode well in advance. Well in advance. Well. Almost turned into fucking Joel Gertner that's done nothing for a second like that. If you're listening to this early because you're a Patreon subscriber, that's awesome, thank you, and I appreciate you. But if you're listening to this on the date that it drops on Sunday, the 6th of July, I am actually probably in the process of packing my bags because I have an eye appointment, a follow-up appointment on July 9th to find out what we're going to do about these cataracts and if they're going to do anything about these cataracts, and if/when I'll be able to go back to work, because as I record this, I've been off work for 3.5 years, and without this podcast and my Twitch streams and you guys to keep me sane, and obviously Nova as well, but without you guys, I don't know where I'd be, because it's been a very stressful it's been a very stressful 4.5 years when you think about when all this stuff started. But, you know, being off work for 3.5 years and finally getting the stitches out and thinking I was on the other side and maybe I'd no longer be blind, and then now I've got cataracts. So, you know, it could be worse. It could be worse. There's a lot of people out there that are a lot worse off than me. But yeah, as this episode's going out publicly, I'm getting ready for a little medical trip of my own. So hopefully episode 171, I might be able to do some sort of health update, if not 172 the following week. But yeah, it's neither here nor there. I'm ranting. Need to get into this intro. The song of the week this week is Big Strong by Downstate, actually mentioned momentarily by MIMS in this conversation. He has a custom theme song by the boys at Downstate, who obviously many people know they are very, very big wrestling fans. one of the members, I think it actually was Zach, who actually is mentioned by name by MIMS in this conversation. He actually stepped into the ring. I think it was Zach. I could be wrong. It was one of the members. I'm just going to say it was Zach, and if I was wrong, y'all can yell at me. But yeah, Zach actually stepped into the ring a few years ago, and the whole thing was his moveset was doing moves of WWE wrestlers that Downstate had done themes for at the time. So obviously at the time it was Dolph Ziggler, The Miz, Alex Riley. I'm not quite sure if they'd done the Zack Ryder remix by that point off the top of my head. But yeah, big fans. I actually have permission from Downstate to use one of their songs. And if you know, you know. But that for a gimmick that unfortunately never got to come to fruition due to my health issues and everything else. But I actually got permission from Downstate to use one of their original songs many years ago. And who knows, maybe one day I'll get to use it. And if you actually know what that song is, let me know. But the song of the week this week is Big Strong by Downstate, the custom theme song for Big Strong MIMS. Big Strong MIMS here. Again, one take, I'm going to leave this all in. My teeth are chattering like a sumbitch. It's freezing like a mofo in this house right now. As I record this intro and outro, it is 6:45 at night, and it's like 1 degree in my lounge room, and I don't like it, and I can't have the heater on while I'm recording because it's too fucking loud. But yeah, the song of the week is Big Strong by Downstate. The match of the week this week is Crazy Steve versus Jeremiah Plunkett in a casket match for tried and true pro wrestling 0 Hour 2017. This match is brought up in this conversation here with MIMS, and the moment this conversation ended, I went out, I saw this match, I watched it, I thoroughly enjoyed it. Granted, I am very biased when it comes to Crazy Steve. Cheap plug, literally 20 episodes ago now, he was our guest on Courting Conversation. My number one bucket list guest for this show was Crazy Steve, and by pure happenstance, his episode fell on episode 150 of CIC Pod. So if you haven't listened to that, go back and listen to it. Steve's mentioned a few times in this conversation as a trainer of MIMS as well. Without going on a tangent about how much I just love and appreciate and look up to and inspire to be half of the performer that Crazy Steve is one day. But no, Crazy Steve versus Jeremiah Plunkett in a casket match at Tried and True Pro Wrestling 0 Hour 2017. And this has nothing to do with it, and I don't want to go on a rant, but as around the time frame of this episode, Nova Lee and I have been binge watching the series Mom. So that's MOM, Mom. Obviously, we do MUM here in Australia, but the series Mom, starring Anna Faris. And we've binge watched. There's 8 seasons all up. We're up to season 6 right now. We've got up to season 6 in about a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks at the most. But yeah, we're binge watching Mom, and the main character, their last name is Plunkett. So that popped me unintentionally just because of the way my ADHD brain kind of works. But yeah, Crazy Steve, Jeremiah Plunkett, casket match, 0 Hour 2017 for Tried and True Pro Wrestling, which I'd heard the name of here and there. I didn't realize that it was actually owned by Crimson until this conversation with MIMS, and I would love to chat to Crimson somehow, some way too, because I really enjoyed what he did when he was in TNA in like the early 2010s, late 2000s. So anyway, that's your song, that's your match. But what I'm going to do, I'm not going to rant any longer. I'm going to press the button, and I'm going to attempt to do an intro for MIMS here. Again, this is all one take. I'm going to leave this in. My throat is still a little bit hoarse because, full disclosure, this intro and outro is being recorded the same day as the intro and outro of episode 169. So it's only a week after 168 where I had a bit of a cold and yada, yada, yada. I'm just ranting at this point. But I'm going to press the button, and I'm going to do my best to introduce our guest here, since the professional Nova Lee isn't here. And I hope MIMS approves. I hope you guys approve. And most importantly, I hope you guys appreciate and enjoy this conversation as much as I did. Ladies and gentlemen, from Clarksville, Tennessee, he is a former NWA World Television Champion and the current NWA National Heavyweight Champion, weighing in at roughly 240 pounds, big, strong MIMS. As a side note, he already said in this conversation how much he weighed, but I've already forgotten. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I am here with current NWA National Heavyweight Champion, big, strong MIMS. Once again, unfortunately, my co-host is just a bit under the weather. She's still recovering from her surgery, and she does send her regard to MIMS. This was the one that she was looking forward to hopefully coming back on, but still a one-man show for now. But we were just talking a little bit like off-air MIMS, just about the weather and stuff, because we're both in our early 30s, and apparently we're already hit middle age. But how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm staying out of the heat as much as I possibly can, and I think you said you're trying to stay out of the rain as much as you can.
Yeah, it's bucketing down here this morning, so hopefully there's no technical issues, but so far so good.
That's perfect.
We always, like, jumping straight into it, we always ask the same question for first-time guests. It's a very generic question, but I think it's a very important question. It's a great icebreaker. Obviously, you've been in the business now officially for 6 years, I think, just on 6 years. But at what point, when did you first discover professional wrestling as a kid?
Oh yeah, actually, so I was showing a good friend of mine the clip of what actually got me to stay consistent as a fan, because I would sneak around and watch it as a kid. I've talked about that a few times here and there, telling people, like, my mom hated me watching professional wrestling, and I don't think so much she hated professional wrestling. It was more of just what the WWF was putting out around the late 90s. Everybody knows the Attitude Era. My mom was like, this is kind of crap. We don't need you to watch this. So maybe if I would have followed the same trend as my cousin and been watching, WCW, it would have been such a big deal. But there was something that I saw and looked it back up. Still gives me goosebumps every time I watch it. It was actually Triple H's return from his quad tear injury. So that's actually what really got me into professional wrestling and said, hey, not only do I need to watch this consistently and stop skipping out on stuff, stop missing out on things, I need to be watching every piece of wrestling content I possibly can. So every episode of, like, Monday Night Raw and SmackDown at that point, Heat, Jacked, Metal, whatever they had going on. I think Shotgun Saturday Night still wasn't. I think it had stopped going on at that point. But watching Triple H come back, not really knowing who he was, because I think he was gone for a good while. I think they said like 84 months or something like that. So maybe not that many months. I don't think he was gone that long, but he was gone for a good enough while. I hadn't seen him on television just yet. Didn't know who the guy was. Did not understand why this entire crowd was going crazy for this man. I'm like, I don't know who this guy is. His music is great. He's a big, jacked up dude in a leather jacket with a denim jacket on top of it and denim underneath. Like, this guy is a man. He's the absolute man. So seeing people in the crowd cheering their heads off, crying in the crowd, everybody's just, like, having a good time and wondering what he did to garner this kind of reaction. And I was like, I have to be able to do that same thing to people. I want to have that same kind of effect on other people. How do I do that? What do I do to get that? So that's kind of what not only made me a very consistent fan, but made me a dedicated fan, to where I was ready to weather whatever ass whooping my mom would give me for finding out I was watching professional wrestling. I was ready to weather that storm as long as I got to watch the thing that had finally caught my eye, really, really sunk the hooks in me. And to this day, that's still my inspiration that I took with me to become a professional wrestler when I made that decision. Because the decision wasn't made then, but the inspiration, the motivation was cast around that time. The decision was made in 2013 through a fun conversation. And then by happenstance, hey, I found my in 2017 and finally got my training in 2018. And then here we are.
Hell yeah, I love that you kind of just naturally segued to, like, all of the other stuff and things as well. Like, but what a moment. Like, I'd hate to think, and you've probably watched it even more than me from the sounds of things, but I'd hate to think how many times I've gone back and rewatched Just that one moment where he comes out, and as you said, he's got the leather on, he's got the denim on. One hell of a fashion statement, but now people have tried to replicate it many, many times. I think Chalkline actually just released a replica of it, which I hate to think the price tag on that once I convert it to Australian dollars. But anyway, what point did you discover that wrestling outside of then WWF/E existed?
Honestly, I'm going to sound terrible about this, like not a real fan of professional wrestling. So, I mean, I'm sure people are going to kill me in the comments, or anybody listening to this is going to be like, oh, wow, we thought Mims was a real fan. But honestly, what happened that taught me that there was wrestling outside of the WWF was like, it was just flipping channels during like the mid 2000s and happening upon TNA. Like I think it was still on Spike TV at the time here in the States. And I think I had seen, it was a few different people. I had seen Marcus Corvon. So I saw like, depending on where he's at, Marcus Corvon, Monty Brown, I had seen him wrestling and I saw him hit a pounce and I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. What is going on here? This ring looks weird. This isn't WWE. Like I sat in and tuned in because I thought, oh, am I missing WWE? I didn't know it was even on right now. Like I thought I had already watched everything for the week, but hey, I got something right here. What is this called? And I saw a 6-sided ring and I was like, this doesn't make any sense. What is this? So watching that and getting to see a few episodes here and there, seeing like Monty Brown, seeing Samoa Joe, seeing AJ Styles, seeing Christopher Daniels, seeing these guys go in and tear it up, I was just like, oh, okay, well, I didn't know there was more wrestling going on. I'm still WWE faithful. Like I'm watching WWE first and foremost, right? But still, this showed me that there was other wrestling going on until probably the time I graduated high school, around like 2010. My best friend, he also wrestled for NWA for a short while. He was going under the name Miggs for the time that he was wrestling, and I do my best every day to try to convince this man to come back to the NWA, come back to professional wrestling, and put on the white boots all over again. And hey, the peer pressure works over the last couple of years, but he actually brought me to my first non-WWE show. So I had never gone to a live event for anything before. Never went to a wrestling event for WWE, for Ring of Honor, for New Japan, for anybody else like that. Never went to any of those events. And he had given me the opportunity to go. I think it was around like 2010, 2011. And the only reason I remember the exact, close to the exact time frame was this was in the Asylum. So, where TNA first started over there in the Nashville Fairgrounds and stuff like that. So this show was actually going to be a Ring of Honor show. So I had no idea the concept of television taping. So they did everything. They shot it in front of a live audience, but they taped them for later. So I was so confused watching the show, seeing 5 different episodes of ROH television being taped, and seeing Prince Nana come out like 5 different times in multiple different outfits. I'm like, how much jewelry does this man own? How many fly ass outfits does this guy have? And like, you just see him like between the tapings. Like, I think it was like the other commentator was just sitting there chilling, having a good time. And you see Nana like running as fast as he can and then running as fast as he can all the way back in a new outfit to do commentary. And it was the craziest thing I'd ever seen. Like, I was like, I don't understand what's going on. Why are they taking a 5-minute break after like 3 or 4 matches? And so Miguel's telling me like, hey, these are different weeks of television. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? I thought everything was live. That's how WWE is. That's how TNA is. Like, everything's just live. He's like, no, dude, they have tapings. Like you got to catch ROH at the right time. So having that experience for the first time was crazy. And then also the biggest surprise was I wasn't aware of anything in ROH, right? So I didn't know what was going on even further outside of just WWE and TNA, the 2 biggest companies. So I was seeing guys for the first time, like Roderick Strong. He had a match against AJ Styles, and it was AJ Styles' return to wrestling after breaking his back, which is
wow, okay,
crazy to think of. I was like, oh, I seen this guy like a few years ago in TNA, and now I'm getting to see this guy. Like he's twice the size. He bulked up quite a bit. He's coming off of an injury that possibly could have been in his career, and took I think I think it was over like a year or so from his career, and he's finally coming back into the ring, and he's tearing up with another guy like Roderick Strong. So you got two greats in there right now having a fantastic match in front of us, and this was on one of the last episodes of this taping. So like this entire time I'd already seen all these other guys that are now like WWE guys or AEW guys. Some of these same guys that I saw, like I may be mistaken here, but I think Austin Aries was even on the show. Like some of these people are people that I shared a locker room with, because I shared a locker room with Austin Aries at NWA, which was crazy. So to see some of these guys that are currently in WWE, in AEW, in the current iteration of ROH, or even in the same locker room with me in NWA was kind of crazy to think about, just, you know, a few years removed from that, you know?
That's pretty crazy, that time frame, when like you really think about the talent in that time frame and where a lot of them are now in various parts of the world. That's a pretty like solid time frame to stumble upon. When did you first go to, like, say, I guess your full-fledged like independent show or live show?
Honestly, the very first full-on independent show, no WWE, no ROH, nothing like that. It would have been actually for the company that I actually ended up getting on with. It was with Tried and True Pro, so the company that was owned in Clarksville, Tennessee by Crimson, Anthony Mayweather. So they started running in 2015, and I had no idea. Like, me coming there as a fan, like, I tried to come to every single show. I think I missed one of the shows. I think it was like a Christmas show or something like that, and I had to work. Like, I couldn't get my way out of it, which sucked. It broke my heart, but I had to, you know, I was missing out on a lot of great things because, hey, I have to work. I'm sorry, bro. So, you know, and it's ironic thinking about it now, how many things I've missed out on work-wise because of wrestling. Like, I've quit a bunch of jobs. I've got fired from a bunch of jobs because of wrestling. So it's kind of fun to see the inverse of that. Hey, I'm missing out on wrestling for work. I'm missing out on family events for work. Nah. It's the other way around. But yeah, 2015, when they started running shows, just seeing a few of those guys that were on the marquee. So, like, you know, guys like WWE's Dexter Loomis, Crazy Steve, who ended up becoming one of my trainers, Jeremiah Plunkett, who also ended up becoming one of my trainers, seeing Bram, the now Tom Latimer, also became one of my trainers, seeing a lot of these guys on the show, James Storm, I think I may have already mentioned Josephus, but Josephus and a lot of those other guys, that were mainstays on Crimson shows that he would bring in. So a lot of TNA talent, a few guys that were like in or out of WWE over the years. These are people that he had on his show. These were staples that he had on his show that he would run like every few months, right? And these are some of the biggest productions we've ever seen come to Clarksville. Clarksville is not a small town by any means, right? It's technically a military town, but we're finally getting some premium entertainment here that Crimson's bringing our way. So that was my first independent show, and then just 2 years later, after coming to that first show in 2015, we get to the point where, you know, I'm quitting my job to come and work for $0.00 just to work security, just for the chance to be a part of the show, just to be a security guy at the door, to possibly get my foot into professional wrestling in 2017. Like, I remember that show like I remember that whole day like it was yesterday. I wake up in the morning, I'm having to go to work. I get disrespected by the new bosses that I have, and I'm like, you know what? I just got a call from a family friend. He said, hey, Crimson needs a little bit of help. He needs another security guy, possibly just, you know, do some janitor stuff, clean up or whatever else. We can't pay you, but like, hey, it would be a great way for you to start, like, you know, shaking hands and kissing babies and get in there, right? And, you know, I'm thinking, yeah, this might be the move. Yeah, I think I'd rather get paid nothing and feel fulfilled with professional wrestling than I would getting paid a lot more for this company I kind of don't like.
See, I feel that though, and then there's a great example of just betting on yourself in the long run. But so you've talked about obviously the Triple H return is what kind of inspired you to, hey man, I could do this, and then now you've got your foot in the door here. What was the exact deciding factor where you were like, I'm going to do this, and then like the phone call come to be?
So this is the thing that kind of made me decide to do professional wrestling as like a career going forward. You know, Miguel, my best friend, like we had known each other since middle school. We didn't really become close until like our senior year of high school, like after the wrestling season was over, because we met because of amateur wrestling. So we were shoot wrestling or whatnot. He actually kind of bullied me into it, funny enough. So like I said, we kind of knew each other more in like 7th grade, but we kind of went through school. We had different classes, right? You had a few different groups of honor students or whatever that all, like, you know, you get into some honors and advanced placement classes or whatnot. You're with your set group. There was about 3 groups of us, right? And all these honors classes. He happened to be in the 3rd group. I was kind of in like the 1st group, which the order of the groups doesn't really matter. It just tells you like, hey, look at these like 25 to 30 kids. You're probably going to be in almost every class with these same 25 to 30 kids because most of your schedule is honors classes and you're not really going to see the other kids, right? So that's kind of how we got separated throughout like most of high school. So we get to the end of high school. We're both kind of skipping class towards the end of the year while the exams are going on. We start bonding over that, right? But we only got to that bond because the summer right before that senior year, I'm coming in from our 3-a-day practices out in the hot summer Tennessee heat. And I come inside getting something to drink, some water or something like that. Me and a bunch of other guys on the football team. And so I hear somebody saying, hey, from the gym, like right above us, right? Because we had a 2-story gym in our high school. And he was like, hey, look, it's a bunch of dumbass wrestlers down there. It's those guys who don't know their lefts from their rights. And I was just like, what? He was like, yeah, you guys wouldn't last a minute up here. And I was just like, bro, what? And everybody else is just like, yeah, I don't care. I'm dead tired. We've been out here since like 7 a.m. It is 5 p.m. Let's go home. I don't care. And I was like, nah, screw that. I'm going upstairs. Yeah, what's this guy talking about? Like, oh, brother, like, you're like 170. I'm like 190. So there's no way this guy's going to get out of here. So I go upstairs. I'm hanging out with the wrestlers and whatnot, learning a few moves here and there. And hey, well, because I didn't know how to wrestle and he did, that guy's beating me. So I find the entrance there because of the fact that I'm losing these matches. I'm losing these little impromptu training matches. I don't know what I'm doing. So I kind of fall in love with it. During that whole summer, I come into training every single day. I get done with my football practice from 7 in the morning till 5 p.m. and I'm staying an extra 2 hours to go hang with the wrestlers. And once our practices get a little bit less extensive, I'm spending more time wrestling. So I spend the rest of that year wrestling, go through a whole season, do pretty well. And, you know, we get kind of closer because I've earned his respect. You know, hey, I was a guy who put my money where my mouth was. He got to talk a whole bunch of garbage, and hey, I proved that I belong with the other wrestlers, right? And so we go through the rest of that year. I'm doing my thing with the wrestling team, being pretty good at it, being natural, right? That's usually the fairy tale thing that you get for any of the greats out here. All the guys are shooters, right? They've done this on some sort of amateur level. They know what they're doing, right? So your Kurt Angles, your Dolph Zigglers, a lot of your old school wrestlers, your Ken Pateras, a lot of those people, like it was kind of a common thing in professional wrestling that all these guys are shooters. They were all like amateur wrestlers at some point that knew how to tie you into a knot. So I kind of need to pay my dues in that sense, and I didn't even know that I was. So we get to the end of that year, we get close to each other, right? He starts dating a girl that I have been friends with for a very long time. They're dating for a few years. They go through their first of a couple breakups, and it's the typical thing you get with the boys. When your brother is going through some troubles, man. When he's crying out those manly tears, you gotta have that heart to heart conversation or whatnot, telling your boy it's gonna be all right. Hey, you know, maybe you were too good for her, whatever else, right? So
absolutely,
we make that promise to each other to do professional wrestling. We're gonna do it together. This is gonna be our thing. Hey man, don't keep crying over this girl, even though she's also kind of my best friend too. Like I'm best friends with both of you guys. I can't say that she wasn't good enough for you. I can't say that, but like, hey man, we're going to do professional wrestling together. We cry. Brother stuff, right? This is in 2013. This is when I make the decision. It doesn't exactly go as planned. He does his end of the bargain. he had been saying since I met the guy in middle school, hey, I went to a book signing for Chris Jericho's book, and he told me to go to Lance Storm's Academy in Canada. And ever since I was 13 years old, I was like, I'm going to do exactly what Chris Jericho told me, because Chris Jericho, Chris Benoit, they're my favorite wrestlers of all time. And I'm going to listen to them. I'm going to go to Lance Storm's Academy because I love Lance Storm too. These are my top three. So this is fantastic. So, I finally convince him, give him the kick in the ass that he needs. He gets up and he goes to Lance Storm's Academy. Me, on the other hand, I actually needed more of the kick in the ass, and I didn't actually go. But funny enough, that was the right thing to do. If I would have went to Lance Storm's Academy, who knows? I probably wouldn't have found my way in professional wrestling. I wouldn't have the connections that I needed. I may have not succeeded. I like to think that a lot of things that have happened to me in the world of professional wrestling have all been, at the right time and in the right place. Like, I don't like to think I'm a lucky dude too often when it comes to professional wrestling. I think it's always just right time, right place. So finding Crimson, being a part of his organization, getting trained through there, and then finding my way to the NWA through Crimson's connections, I think that was my path. And luckily that same path could bring Miguel onto that same path afterwards. But hey, we didn't cross paths in the first place on accident. I don't think it was. I think it was right time, right place, and something was meant to happen. We were always meant to be best friends. That's what I like to think.
I think that story is probably the perfect example of, and it sounds very hippie when you like really look at it, but I'm a very firm believer of, the whole everything happens for a reason and stuff like that. And that story right there is a perfect example of that. And I think you segued very well into that when you talk about Crimson and his connections getting you to the NWA, because although you have worked for a handful of different places, you've worked almost exclusively, or I should say at least consistently, for the NWA for the majority of your career so far, which is insane to think about when you really look at it on paper. So how did that come to fruition for working for the NWA?
So this is actually very interesting. I'll pull back the curtain for this one. So with Billy, I think a lot of people that have followed what Billy's been doing, especially people that, they love the Smashing Pumpkins. If anything, he knows he has a cult. He has a cult. They love him. It's a cult following. Plus, he just has a great following. Whenever somebody's that artistic, somebody's being that much of a visionary, they're going to have people that follow everything they do. But even in professional wrestling, because we're all a bunch of nerds in professional wrestling, right? Everybody knows about what happened with him at TNA, but he met a lot of good people in TNA, right? He made a lot of great connections there while he was backstage doing his thing and trying to get back into the wrestling business. And with that, one of his connections that he had made was with Crimson. He had made connections with Crimson and a few other people that Crimson was really cool with. So you had Crimson, I used to, some of us in the training school, we used to call Crimson Tom Latimer and Nick Aldis. We used to call them the Three Musketeers. You'd always see them somewhere together, right? Especially once Nick Aldis started coming around when the NWA was forming, when they were still doing the 10 pounds of gold and they were filming that. And so with the infrastructure that we had, those premium shows that we were bringing around to Clarksville, and we'd even brought those shows to other promotions. For example, my first show that I'd ever done, on a bigger level than just our student shows that we were doing out at training school, was in Fort Wayne, Indiana. That's how I met the lead singer of Downstate, one of the biggest fans in professional wrestling, and how I ended up getting my own theme music through Downstate because I met Zach Call. We wrestled each other. They're in a co-promoted show for a charity event. So it's always a small world full of a ton of connections, but you get to the connection that Billy has with Crimson, and as far as I know, is that Billy approached Crimson about hosting a pop-up event, an event for the NWA. He's like, hey, we need an event for the NWA after we've already done an event for the NWA, I think, at this point. So we had done NWA 70, which was also at the Asylum, right? We had worked security. I was one of the guys putting the ring together, working security, being around the event. That's when I first met Billy. That's when I met Billy. I met Jim Cornette. I met Cody Rhodes. I'd already met Nick Aldis before, but got to be more introduced to him, and also got to meet Camille for the first time while they were bringing a lot of things together. So that show went off without a hitch. We have a pop-up event we're doing in Clarksville, Tennessee, instead of in Nashville this time. We're doing just the NWA pop-up. I think this was January 2019. There is an old picture of me working security, I'm sitting right next to Billy while this is all going on. So I'm thinking that's where the connection starts to come up, because I'm just a familiar face over and over again. Maybe I'm not someone that's super important that Billy's paying a lot of attention to, but as far as he knows, hey, this guy is doing his job, right? So after that, not too much longer into the year of 2019, I think you know what happens towards the end. The first episode of Power is on the air, right? I get approached by, at the time, my coach, Tom Latimer. He had already been coaching me. I'd already been in his advanced placement class. Like, we had 3 tiers of classes at our academy. I had been working with Tom already almost a year at this point. And so he approaches me, and he wants to approach me and Miguel, because we're the top students in the school, about coming in and working a match, right? Because David Lagana had approached him. Hey, is there anybody here that you think would be good for the first episode of Power? We're trying to put it all together. We need you guys to have an enhancement match. So is there like any students that you're fond of that you think could really do a good job to make you guys look great? Because at the time, Tom Latimer is a part of the Wild Cards with Royce Isaacs, the NWA World Tag Team Champions at that point. And so we get approached about it, right? Now, that same girl that Miguel had broken up with, at this point, they're married. So they were together a lot. Oh, yeah. So that whole breakup in 2013, that didn't stick. By 2019, they're still together and they're still going strong. And so Miguel's being a good husband. He makes sure that he keeps the time off that he would need, you know, for whatever his wife needs. He makes sure he keeps that time in. He couldn't make the sacrifice for it. I don't blame him for it. I understand. You know, you're a husband before you're a professional wrestler. So it ends up just being me. And then one of the other trannies, Danny White. In that first episode of Power, the third match, we're losing to the Wild Cards, right? And this comes after I'm coming in thinking, hey, maybe I have this opportunity, but I'm still one of Crimson's guys. I'm still one of those loyal soldiers that's going to come in and, hey, whatever you need done, I'm going to go get it, boy. Like, hey, you guys need something down the street? That's where I'm going. Hey, we're building up this ring. I'm running this ring crew. I'm loading things up. I'm making for sure the logistics get handled as far as they possibly can. So Billy, Dave Lagana, Nick Aldis, anybody else that are running the things in the NWA, they don't have to worry about the small stuff, right? So that opportunity comes, and I continue to do my job, running the ring crew, making for sure logistically we're sound. We're totally sound. Nobody's scrambling for anything. If anybody needs something when it comes to the back, they're coming to me first, right? Hey, I need my ring crew guys. I need you guys to go out and get water. I need you guys to go and get this extra thing. Hey, maybe a wooden plank broke. Let's go ask MIMS, see what MIMS is doing. Hey, we need to find him here. And I started to get that reputation of being somebody who can make for sure that something gets done. And that's very important in professional wrestling. You always want to have that guy there, or a few people there that, you know, if there's ever any panic, you can just go to this person. It's going to get handled. You don't need to know how. You don't need to know why. It's just going to get handled, right? And from that point, I get a few more matches, right? They give me a few more opportunities to get out there, show what I can do, you know, make people look good. That's what everybody wants in the professional wrestling business. How are you going to make the good guys, how are you going to make the big guys look good? Because you want somebody else to come in and do the same thing for you when it's your turn, right? So that's kind of how I get that opportunity to get in a little bit further at NWA. I still handle responsibilities. I still make for sure that I'm getting everything done. I'm dotting my I's, I'm crossing my T's until whenever we get back from the hiatus that we had during the pandemic. And hey, it's not just test after test. It's not enhancement matches anymore. We want you to go out there and have a full match. Here's where the big opportunity comes in. We still need you to do what you're doing backstage and behind the camera, but we want to see what you can possibly do to kind of graduate a little bit into one of those full-time positions. We want you to really be a part of the roster here. And so 2021 was where I really started to kind of come into my own and really fill out the shoes of somebody who is going to be an NWA superstar. And, you know, we get to where we're at now, right?
Hell yeah. So it's almost, again, it sounds like such a cliche, but almost like a domino effect for you in that regard, where it just kind of starts all trickling down. And as you said, now here we are. That's, I love to hear that, where it's just, you know, you're just putting in hard work for lack of a better term. And you're just a product of that hard work. And that's really freaking cool. You mentioned
Absolutely.
you mentioned the pandemic there. In 2020, during the pandemic, you actually worked a couple of matches for Impact, you for Explosion, which from memory, I think that was actually how my wife and I started following you on socials and
Oh,
stuff. But what was it like working those types of COVID shows? Because even for me, as like a small time indie guy, the couple of shows we did where it was no fans was absolutely bizarre. So as someone that's been working, around the NWA consistently, what was that like for you?
honestly, it was very different, but I think across every single promotion, major, indie, minor, indie, whatever, I think it was a test for everybody to really learn how to, as the vets would say, learn how to work, kid. Learn how to work. So I think like everybody in their careers, no matter how big they are, no matter how small they are, they've had the experience of working in front of barely anybody, right? I've been at shows where I'm working in front of 5 people. I've had shows where I'm working in front of 10 people. I've had shows where I'm working in front of 300 people. And I've had a few shows where I'm working in front of over 1,000 people. And, luckily those shows are becoming more common than, working without fans there. That's a great thing. That's definitely provided by the NWA. And then also, again, by those same premium events that we were doing in Clarksville. So I've got to feel the highs and the lows on the indies. I've got to feel the highs and lows of the NWA, right? So I think that just gave a new challenge, gave a new dynamic to exactly what we had going on, even with working with TNA, because I only worked those 2 matches, but there was a few things I had never run into before, and I had to deal with those tests right then and there. So obviously, like NWA came back at a certain point, we were doing the same thing. We were performing in front of no fans because of the fact that you want to stay within your limitations or whatnot. You want to keep your wrestlers. You also want to keep the fans. You want to keep them safe. And we still want to be able to provide entertainment. That's what we do at the end of the day. Right. But I got to experience that challenge a little bit earlier than some of the other people in the NWA whenever we came back in 2021 by being a part of Impact Wrestling. And I'm always going to be grateful for my time that I had at Impact Wrestling, because any challenge, anywhere, anything that's different, that isn't the same as what you do all the time, is a opportunity to be better, to get better, to learn something from somewhere and add it to what you already have. So, at the time I was still a baby face, because I think I've basically been babyface my entire career until a very recent point. So, you're taking away the element of being able to feed off the crowd. Yeah. So what are you going to do whenever you can't take that very important element to the story that we tell in feeding off the crowd, in feeling that energy, in taking that babyface fire? You got to have it all in your head. You got to be able to display that to the people at home that are going to be able to watch this match, right? We're not just performing for ourselves. And a lot of people forget that. When they're coming up from the indies and, they've always spent their time watching matches on television as a fan, they don't remember that, hey, yeah, we're performing for the people here. That's what you're used to, is performing for the people in front of you that you can see. But the most important audience that you're going to be told about every single time are going to be the ones who are watching you on camera. You are performing for the people on camera, right? That's something that really separates the indies from those major promotions that are going to have you on television. So it was kind of having that challenge really put in my face, right? Before then, I'd only had those 3 matches with NWA. I had been working a few indies here and there, but a lot of my experience in professional wrestling didn't really come from the indies. Not a lot of people know this, but I think by the time I was having my first match on Power, that was maybe probably my 10th match ever. That's counting any student show that I've been a part of, or performing in front of people in front of my, in my hometown, or anything that was basically under Crimson's banner, or something that was small, like maybe even for Pro Wrestling Entertainment that Jason James runs. He was giving me my first opportunities on an indie that wasn't just something that Crimson already controlled, right? So it's me actually getting out there and getting to see, hey, this is how people really react to me. It's not that they're just happy about tried and true and, hey, these are one of the students. Okay, cool. No, I'm just MIMS out there. That's it. So getting to have that challenge with TNA and seeing where I could deal with that, and then bringing it to NWA and getting an opportunity where there's a lot more risk there. Like, obviously at the time I wasn't signed to NWA, so there could have been potentially a job for me there at TNA, even though I don't think they were looking in my direction, and I wasn't ready yet. I really wasn't ready yet, right? Getting to bring that into NWA and having that chip on my shoulder of understanding I wasn't ready yet, but having that opportunity at TNA to show, hey, are you ready? Or are you not ready? Here's how you're going to find out, right? You're going to work against guys who know what they're doing. You're going to work with guys who are already good, who are already signed to this company, that are either going to help you sink or help you swim. It depends on how you fulfill your end of the bargain in this match, right? Getting to bring that to NWA and testing my mettle again and doing it months to years later and really finding out, like, hey, maybe I am actually ready. Maybe I don't have to be, the absolute best just yet, but I have to be somebody who's able to weather the storm. And with the NWA, luckily I did. Because, I came in there, my very first match, my first full-fledged match was against Tyrus. That it wasn't going to be a 2-minute squash match. It wasn't going to be a 4-minute squash match. It was going to be a 6 to 8 minute match. Yeah, I'm losing. I definitely lost. But I'm getting my opportunity to show, like, hey, can you actually make it through one of these? Can you actually hit all the notes that we want you to hit? Can you show potential? Can you be something more than just a job guy? Because anybody can come in and make it to that level, right? We're all good professional wrestlers. I don't think there's a lot of absolutely terrible professional wrestlers. I think pretty much anybody that comes in here and actually cares about professional wrestling can at least get to the level of being a job guy, right? But I think you have to separate into another tier of professional wrestler if you can make it beyond that, right? I think there's tiers to professional wrestling, right? And it's not to say anybody's bad. It's not to say anybody's not good enough. It's just at that time, can you make it to that next tier? And this was my test to make it to that next tier. But yeah, I think for everybody, it was a challenge that we all needed. It was a disruption to the status quo that we all knew and what we were all comfortable with, to do something bigger and greater. And I think it only made the people that were still wrestling during that time even better. WWE, absolutely. You can tell a lot of people that were working during that time have gotten even better just because of that experience. The Thunderdome, or working in front of nobody at all, not even the TV screens. So, yeah, it was a unique challenge, but I think it was a really beneficial one for everyone.
It's kind of crazy to think that, we're X amount of years removed and it still feels like yesterday, but in some aspects it feels like it's even longer. But no, it's cool that you're able to, I guess, turn a negative into a positive in that way, where you were kind of like, learning the different stuff and things. And obviously along with that comes, as you said, working the cameras. So character work has to become a very big thing, which again is probably still awkward when there's no actual fans there, but playing to the cameras, you're still going to play it up regardless. One of your monikers, and I don't even know it's really character work because it's right there. One of your monikers is Big Strong, which obviously pretty self-explanatory when someone takes a look at you and you're just this big stocky sumbitch that could probably tear their head off. But is there anyone specifically that you look at, whether it be in the fitness world or just the athletic world, that you look at as an inspiration for that? And how do you just stay motivated to stay in shape in general?
Really, when it comes to like the motivation for that to stay in shape is like, I know I have a name to fill out. I know that when it comes to me and coming up with a name, it was more of like a tongue-in-cheek double entendre, I guess, or just a tongue-in-cheek kind of joke there. Because yeah, I'm big and I'm strong, but like I like to be realistic about exactly how big I am and actually how strong I am. Now, if I was in a strongman competition, would I do well in an official strongman competition? Right now, absolutely not. Maybe about 10 years ago, probably be doing pretty all right. I like to power lift or whatnot, and I wouldn't say that I was a pro at any level. I had won a few competitions here and there, but nothing big, nothing super, nationwide or statewide, just a few city ones here and there. And with that, yeah, I'm stronger than your average dude. I'm definitely stronger than your average dude. I mean, there's not a lot of guys benching 315. There's definitely not a lot of guys who are benching 455 like me. There's not a lot of guys squatting over 500 pounds, and that's what I was doing. You know, not a lot of people were deadlifting 600 pounds or more than that. Again, another thing that I'm doing. So compared to a lot of people, I'm on a higher tier, right? They would say on average, there's not a lot of people on the planet just benching 225. But, you know, for a professional wrestler, like, I think I'm still a pretty big and strong dude. I kind of found that out once I went on the indies, because I was thinking, you know, I'm watching TV, seeing all these wrestlers out there. I'm thinking they're all larger than life, big, super huge guys, right? And then finding out, like, hey, I'm 5'11" and a half, 6 foot if I wake up on a good morning, right? And I'm coming out there and I'm like, hey, a lot of these guys I've been watching, a lot of these people that I kind of look up to, when I meet them in person, I'm looking down at them. And I'm 5'11". I'm thinking, like, hey, this guy's built at like 6'1". This guy's 5'9". What do we do? Like, you know, people, it's a good thing in professional wrestling, and I'm pulling back the curtain a little bit, but, you know, I like to think that I'm kind of real with this. You know, we inflate what we are, like our actual, like, stats and stuff like that. Like, no, almost anytime somebody's called at my weight, it's been pretty accurate. You know, I've been at my heaviest ever, even in my professional wrestling career, like just in general. 272 was the heaviest I've ever been, right? Right now, if you want me to be totally honest, I'm 239. Like I've cut like 40 pounds since that last time that I got weighed at 272. And I think that was a match I had with AJ Kazana in Oak Grove. I was 272. I know AJ, he was pushing up the scale a little bit too, because he's cut down quite a bit. And you know, height-wise, I'm still 5'11" and a half. I put those boots on, I'm 6'1". I know where I'm at, you know, but it's not even just a relative thing with the whole big strong thing. Really what it is was like, I was like, okay, well, big strong is more going to be, it sounds very babyface with this gimmick. It's a big heart and a strong mind, or a big heart and strong will. So it's kind of like a never say die attitude. It's that kind of grit mindset that people try to get into place. Like, okay, well, you have a big heart because you're very kind. You're very understanding. You're a person who sees yourself as a protector. Right. And this is a fun conversation I had with Pat Kinney years ago, where he was just like, what is big, strong MIMS? He was like, explain your gimmick to me. He was like, you should be able to explain this in one sentence. He was like, every good gimmick you can explain in a sentence or two, possibly even less. He was like, what is Stone Cold Steve Austin? Beer drinking, ass kicking Texan. There you go. That's the whole thing. And it's one of the greatest gimmicks of all time. Right. Hulk Hogan, you know, separate the person if you want to or not. We're talking about the gimmick of Hulk Hogan, you know, all-American freedom fighter type of guy, right? All-American hero. There you go. Easy to understand. Kurt Angle, Olympic hero, wrestling machine. There you go. Big, strong MIMS. What is big, strong MIMS? He's somebody who sees himself as a protector, somebody who has a never-ending will. So somebody who, let's say, big, strong MIMS, big guy who never gives up and never gives in. There you go. Right? Protects anybody he meets, loves everybody as much as he possibly can, never gives up, that kind of thing. Right? Slice it up into whatever one sentence or two sentence like description you can get, but that's where that name really comes from. Right? So I wanted to come up with something that was a lot deeper. Right. And that's why I could say to answer the question fully, like I didn't so much have an inspiration of somebody who's out there in the fitness world, or like besides the inspiration of professional wrestlers that I've modeled how I look, or modeled what I wore to the ring, or even my hair, because Booker T is the reason why I grew dreads, or even my moveset, right? There's a few things in there that are from JBL, from Ron Simmons, even a few things from Bobby Lashley. Like these are people that I loved watching, right? Maybe a few things in there from Triple H and even William Regal if I can, right? So these are all people that inspired me for those aspects. But when it comes to the gimmick idea, the name, what it really means to me, really where my inspiration comes is seeing myself a lot further in the future, right? I like to always think about how you can go back and think of yourself from your perspective as a child, a lot younger, and how do you see yourself now, right? So I still want to keep that idea in my head when it comes to my professional wrestling career. Okay, I see myself as this right now. How do I see myself further in my career? Well, I'm going to be big, strong MIMS. I'm going to be this big, strong guy. That's how I'm seeing myself. I'm seeing myself as some sort of superstar. I'm seeing myself as like one of the biggest guys around. Nobody can be bigger than me. Nobody can be stronger than me. And everybody's going to believe in my hype because I believe in it, because I'm living it. I have to fill these shoes. I know where I'm going to be. I know what I'm going to be, but I have to fill those shoes. So I guess really what it is just my inspiration should be me, a better me, an always improving, better me. From the eyes of me when I was a kid, from the eyes of me watching Triple H come out and have all these people like have the greatest celebration of all time at seeing this guy at 100%. How does little Matthew Mims see himself in the future holding that same spot? Right. So I think that's where that really comes from for me. That's how I kind of came up with that.
I don't want to get too deep here, but like that just gave me a whole shitload of perspective listening to you say that. I don't want to like go on too much of a sidebar, but like I've been feeling like shit in my personal life lately, and like literally as you were saying that, it's like, you know, what would young me think looking at me now? And now I'm like, holy crap. As we record this, you are the current NWA National Heavyweight Champion, as we discussed, but you're also a former NWA Television Champion. And although there is like a little bit of, I guess, discrepancy in terms of the lineage of that, because on a technicality, you know, WWE owns the right to all the old footage and whatever else. But when it comes to the actual design of that championship, it is one of the most recognizable championships in modern wrestling, because they still have given it a throwback to the original one from back in the day. Off the top of your head, who do you think sets the bar for the NWA Television Championship, whether that be one single wrestler or a multiple in like a Mount Rushmore type way?
I mean, if anything, I always go back to Arn and Tully. You know, I think those are two people that set that standard for it. I mean, there's been a lot of great NWA Television champions, but whenever I think of them, those are always the two that I bring up on the shorthand is Arn and Tully. So, and that was a great thing for me to bring up, because I will go into the deep parts here because I'm never afraid to be me. I'm never afraid to talk about what I think or how I felt about something, and expose my vulnerabilities. You know, some people want to hide whatever vulnerabilities they have. Absolutely not me. When I won that championship, I had a little bit of a problem with, imposter syndrome. I had that a lot coming into the NWA, because unlike a lot of people that got into the NWA, that it took them a lot longer to get there. It was a lot harder for them to get there. You know, I came in having the connection with Crimson. I came in not having as many matches. Like, people were surprised whenever they saw me. Like, let's say, for example, Aaron Stevens, he talked to me and he was just like, yeah, how many matches have you had? When I had that match with Tyrus, that very first one. And I told him, I was like, yeah, dude, I mean, definitely not even 20, maybe like, I don't know, like 12, if that. He was like, wait, really? He's like, how long have you been working? I don't know, since like 2018. And I haven't had that many matches, hadn't even had 100 yet. But he was like, yeah, you seem like you're really capable. That's a surprise. Okay, well, cool. Then I guess, like, that's great. You know, it's having that imposter syndrome, being in the same locker room, people who've had thousands of matches, who have forgotten better matches than I've even thought of or could even hope to come up with, having that kind of imposter syndrome. And then even after being with the NWA since 2019, coming in 2023, and then finally capturing something I've been going after for 18 months, capturing the NWA World Television Championship. Even then, I'd never won a championship before anywhere, not on an independent, because I didn't work them that much, nowhere else in the NWA, no place that I won a championship, which is kind of what I wanted. I wanted my first championship to be the NWA World Television Championship. That was kind of what I wanted. But then when I finally got it, I was like, hey, what do I do? How do I act like a champion? How do I measure up to somebody like Arn Anderson? How do I measure up to somebody like Tully Blanchard? How do I measure up to even the worst in whoever's collective opinion, whoever the worst NWA Television Champion has been? How do I measure up to that? I don't know what I do in the situation. So I kind of panicked while I had the ball. There's this great like phrase I always like to tell people about all the time with Mike Tyson, where it's like, oh, what? Everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the mouth. And at this point, like obviously being television champion doesn't seem like a punch in the mouth, but I've only got punched in the mouth and I didn't know what to do. I mean, if I would have got punched in the mouth, if I would have legitimately been punched in the mouth, I would have known what to do a lot better. Like I've been in that situation plenty of times, and usually I can handle that. But being a champion that's being recognized with such a prestigious title that so many people like, they still to this day fawn over. People still love that belt. They still love what it means. They still love the stipulations. I still love the storytelling elements that come along with the NWA World Television Championship. It's one of the most unique titles in all professional wrestling and one of the most respected. And to have it and then say, hey, well, what do I do? Like, yeah, you would think, well, maybe it's the people who write this or creative's idea of what to do next. No, with the NWA, we have a lot of creative freedom as the wrestlers. Like it is primarily in your hands. Like, yeah, you can get direction and you can be told, hey, here's the idea we have for it. I'm thinking you can execute it. That's how Billy runs the ship. And that's a great way to steer the ship, is to say, hey, I have an idea for this. This is where I want to go with it. Find your way to complete the vision that I have for it. I maybe want you to do this, this, and this. Do it in your own way. Get creative with it. And I like that. I like that freedom. And I didn't know what to do. Like I was so stumped. I was like, so what kind of champion do I need to be now? Like, do I need to change my character? Do I just need to be the same MIMS I've been for a while, but I have a belt now? Like, what changes? Do I become somebody different because of the belt? Do I become somebody who's just obsessed with being champion? Is my whole identity wrapped up in being a champion? Right? Like, is the only reason I'm going to be relevant is it a championship? How do I determine that? Maybe I got to hold on to the title forever. Like, maybe that's going to make me somebody. Like, I'm wondering all these different things in my head and I'm panicking. I don't know what to do. I didn't feel like I settled into being a champion until I won the national title. Until then, until I've actually already lost that NWA World Television Championship in a historic match, until I had that happen and had some time away from it, I didn't really figure out what to do. Like, now I feel like I have more control over the situation. Now I feel like a champion, because that entire time I had that belt, every time I would look at it, I'd wake up, I'd look over and see it on my dresser. And I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to be. I was like, how do I carry myself as a champion? I was like, I don't think I can figure this out while I have this. It was such a weird time in my life. I was going through a lot of stuff. I'm always going through stuff, right? Everybody's always going through something. But just to have a point in my professional wrestling career where I don't know what's coming next, and now it's a big problem to me. Like, a lot of times in my career, I don't know what's coming next, but I've never had it be such a problem in my head where it's keeping me awake at night. I don't know what to do next. Like, just had all this weight on my shoulders. So it's nice to be in a place now that I feel like if I got the NWA Television Championship back, I'd know what to do. I'd know the kind of person to be. I'd know where to take this, because I'm doing that with the national championship. I'm pushing it to a level that I think is very important. I'm pushing it to a level that keeps that prominence to where I can be mentioned in the same conversation with other people. I've had a long reign as it is. And I think I've actually earned it instead of feeling like an imposter, sitting in a place that I haven't earned, that I don't deserve, and it's just completely different just over a year or so later, to see that I kind of feel like I actually belong now. And it's weird. I should have, right? I had won a championship, a major championship. I won a major championship. I was already signed to the company under my first contract, right? But I don't feel like I belong. I've been wrestling with the company for a few years now. Like, I've been in some big matches. I've main evented some television episodes or whatnot. I'm not main events in the big shows, but still, I'm in big matches. I'm featured. I'm being advertised. I'm everywhere you can put people at for the NWA that isn't the world champion, and I'm still just like, man, I don't think I should be here. I don't think I've earned it yet. Maybe they should give the belt to somebody else. And it all sounds silly now, but like, that's sometimes how some of us wrestlers get, but yeah, that's kind of like all my feelings with the NWA Television Championship.
With that being said, then now that you've kind of you've gone through that and you're kind of starting to find your stride somewhat with the national title, there's been a handful of people now that have exchanged the national title for a shot at the world title and have all been successful. Is that at all on your radar for things that you'd like to do in terms of goals, rather, or are you just more wanting to just take that national title to new heights?
I want to do both. I don't think of myself as stretching myself too thin, so I want to take the national title to new heights while also being somebody who can say that they were successful at exchanging it for a reign for the NWA World Championship. If anything, like with the NWA World Championship, it means a lot to me. It's one of my biggest goals that I have in professional wrestling. My big thing is I want to be just like Ron Simmons. I want to be a NWA World Champion. Yeah, at that point it was NWA, but technically WCW, but still being a world champion is very important to me. But it's all about how you become world champion, right? I think I like to say there's this rule that I had, and I'm going to try to remember exactly how I explained it. I talk about 5%ers and 1%ers, right? And this is not a reference to EC3 at all. But I have 5%ers and 1%ers. I think when it comes to professional wrestling, there is going to be 5% of the world of professional wrestling, possibly even less. They're going to become world champions, right? There's going to be only 1%, possibly even less, who are going to become world champion, but really be the guy, right? You have plenty of people in professional wrestling that can get to the mountaintop, but do they feel like they belong there? Are they the person everybody's just like, no, that's the guy? You have your 1%ers and your Stone Colds, your Dwayne The Rock Johnsons, your Hulk Hogan's, your Ric Flairs. Those are your 1%ers, right? And even for the people that are in the 5% or below, these are not guys to shake your head at. These are legendary people. These are all legends because they achieved something that, again, 95% at the very least of the professional wrestling world will never touch, never even come close to. Shoot, 80% of the world of professional wrestling won't even get into the same company. They won't even get to a major promotion at all. They won't be in WWE. They won't be in TNA. They won't be in ROH. They won't be in AEW. They won't be in ECW, WCW, whatever W's you have that are having a television deal, doing something of a higher level. They won't even get there. So it's separating like the highest of the highs, right? And I'm somebody that if I'm going to do this, I don't want to do this quarter-assed. I don't want to do this half-assed. I don't want to do it three-quarters-assed. I want to do it all 4 quarters fully assed. Put my whole ass in it, right? I want to make for sure that whenever I stop wrestling or close my eyes and sit down into a casket, I put everything I possibly could into it. And I have full belief in myself that I won't just be a 5%er. I think that's a natural thing for me. I don't see that as cockiness. I see it as confidence in believing in myself. I've already bet on myself. I've taken years out of my life to bet on myself without any guidance, without any, from 2013 to 2018, I had no clue where I was going to go with this. I was completely lost, but I was still thinking I'm going to bet on myself. So that's years, months, weeks of having no direction, not even knowing if I was really moving towards my goal of just being a professional wrestler, but I'm not satisfied with the idea of just being a 5%er. I think I'm going to be a world champion. I know I'm going to be a world champion. That's something that I've already discussed with myself and agreed that's my future. But where I'm seeing myself at is I want to see myself, I want to fill out that position as a 1%er. And that's something that I know I can do, and one of the ways that I think I get to do that is, again, it's not just being the world champion. How did you get there? What do you do while you're there? What is a legacy with at least that one reign you have? If it's one reign or any of the reigns, what is the real legacy that you leave behind after you do that? It's almost like being a world champion is a prerequisite to be a 1%er, right? So I think my way to get to that 1% area is the reign I'm currently in as the NWA National Heavyweight Champion. That's why I can't just hold the belt and give it up, right? It can't just be a prop that I have that I just walk around with. It can't be just a tool to get to the World Championship. It's something I have to elevate. I have to do something with this national championship that makes you feel special about it. Something that makes you think, hey, this is something that makes this belt so great. What makes the national championship important? It's all the different reigns that happen. When we look at the lineage of the national championship, you have a few different reigns that you can talk about, a few different people that made this belt everything it was. And a lot of those people either became synonymous with that belt or that reign catapulted them to that world championship level to where they became even better. I mean, like, when you think of Austin Idol when it comes to the national title, somebody who made this title important and elevated it. That's one of the reasons why he's so legendary, is because he became synonymous with it. He made that title mean something. And we all have to do that. Whenever you get your turn with a title, you have to make it mean something. When I'm talking about the guys who have a championship, make it relevant, make it important, make it must-see TV, and use that championship reign they have, the things they do while they have that title, make it important and not make it just a stepping stone to get to the world championship. I'm talking about another 1%er we're currently seeing as the 1%er, the guy at the very, very top of our food chain in professional wrestling, in a John Cena. His U.S. championship reigns that he had before he became world champion, they were all important. It was important to see John Cena win that belt every time he had it. He became synonymous with it. When I think of the United States Championship that came from WCW and was a WWE title, at some point, who made it the most important? John Cena. It's always going to be John Cena for me. He's the person who made that belt that important. Some of his feuds over there, a lot of the guys he had to face for that belt, Big Show, Carlito, JBL, anybody that he was facing for these belts, like for this belt, made that important. But he couldn't have become a 1%er if it wasn't for those reigns he had with the United States Championship. It would be a lot harder to decide that this was the guy beyond guys, the man among men, without that title reign there. And that's where I feel like I'm at in my career right now. I get to that 1% because of what I'm doing right now, the steps I'm making right now in making the right moves. So that's kind of where I'm at with the national title and the World Heavyweight Championship.
That's a very, very well thought out answer to that question as well. Thank you for that. We've just basically
I like wrestling a little bit too much.
Just pretty much laid out MIMS' goal for like the next year or two right here on the podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Just as a little bonus question before we get to the last rapid fire couple of questions. Obviously, you won that national title because it was vacated by the now world champion Tom Latimer. Just say in theory, once you've cashed it in, and for the lack of a better term, once you've exchanged the title for the title shot, who on the roster would you like to see take that national championship once you're finished doing what you're doing with it?
You know, somebody that I believe in a lot, and I think a lot of people believe in him, this is going to be a very cold take because of the fact that I think a ton of people would agree with me. You know who I think could hold this title? Because I have a full list. I have at least like a top 5, but the person I put at the top of that list would be Colby Corino.
Oh, dude, I'm such a big fan
day of the week. Oh, yeah. It's hard not to be a fan of Colby Corino when it comes to his in-ring work, who he is as a person, seeing him backstage, and then also what he does on the mic. Like, this guy is undeniable. It's hard not to be the biggest fan of Colby Corino. And I think you can give him any belt, and he's going to make it relevant. He's going to make it important. And honestly, seeing him out there, like, I love watching his matches. One of my favorite matches from NWA 76, besides just talking about our world title match, because, hey, you put Tom and EC3 together, you're getting a great match every single time. And they only get better every single time. It's ridiculous. These guys are the best in our sport, and they prove it every time they hop in the ring together. Whether EC3 or Tom don't want to have the praise, they don't want to get a big head. Oh, brother, mate, it's not that big of a deal. No, it is. It is. There's a reason why you guys are the guys. But my second favorite match from NWA 76 was Colby versus Billy Silas Mason. And, you know, hey, I know where I'm at on the card. I know that when it comes to that NWA World Heavyweight Championship, I know who that championship is going to be mostly argued between. So I know that two of the guys that I named off right now or whatever are going to be the guys that are looked at as that next generation of stars that are going to be those world champions. And hey, I think Colby needs to be in that same conversation. If he's not already in that conversation, like me and Silas are, if anything, I think he should be in that conversation before me. But have him have a run with the national title, so he's in that same conversation. So it shuts up any naysayers. So it shuts up anybody who doesn't think of Colby Carino as one of those top contenders going for that World Heavyweight Championship. And if anything, hey, I'm not spoiling anything here, but I see the way that Colby moves in the ring. I saw that match at 76. I saw the match that he had at Crockett Cup. And I know somebody who's in the ring like that, who's putting together classic matches all the time. I saw him in that tournament, the Dane Memorial Tournament. There's no way you can't say he's World Heavyweight Champion material. And hey, maybe the device that he needs to make for sure that everybody really understands that, to really put it in the haters' faces, is winning the NWA National Heavyweight Championship. So it would be an honor to have him be the guy that comes after me. That might make me look like I'm even better because he came after me. You know, I like to think that I have a responsibility to make Tom look even better because of the fact that I came after Tom.
Yep.
I can't be the terrible guy after Tom. No, I don't think that makes anybody look good.
I love the forward thinking you've had with all of these answers. Side note, since Mims was the one that brought him up, Colby, check your emails.
Please do check your email.
The last couple of questions are very. And I know a lot of the time people these days in wrestling say that mark is a dirty word, but I very much embrace that term. And this podcast, one of our taglines is actually for the marks, by the marks. We're taking it to our own because we love pro wrestling here, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. So this is the part where you get to mark out just a little bit, and that is, as we wind down, Mims, what are some of your favorite matches of all time, both that you have had personally and then that you've just seen as a fan as well?
Oh man, that is so hard. Well, personally, I think some of my favorite matches that I've had, a more recent favorite, I think is just where I really made the turn into my own, as this current iteration of who Big Strong Mims is, was my match that I had with Burchell for the national title. Like, I think that was one of the best matches I've ever had. Other than that, I've had really fun matches with Jack Stane back and forth. I think one of my favorite matches I had was after cutting my very first promo, cutting it on behalf of the Pope, and having that match against Mike Knox, somebody who I watched a lot growing up, and really enjoyed having that match with him. And I think it was just something great to see. And then AJ Kazana's debut match. I think those are all like my favorite matches I've ever been involved in. Some of my favorite matches that I've ever seen. I would definitely say one of my new favorites that was kind of a surprise to me would actually be my very recent one of my new favorites. It would be the triple threat, the women's match at WrestleMania, where it was Io Sky, Bianca Belair, and Rhea Ripley. Honestly, I give it to everybody who was on that card, but I don't care what anybody says. That was the absolute best match at WrestleMania this year. It's one of my favorite WrestleMania matches, period. I've watched the match 4 times since then, outside of just watching it when it happened live, watching it on television when it happened live. Another one of my favorite matches would be Jack Dane versus Tim Storm in the NWA. So none of them, I'm not talking about the matches that I haven't got to see, that were in the NWA before the Lightning One era. I'm talking about the one where, they introduced Jack Dane as a character on NWA Power, and seeing that match, like, this is something that's story heavy. It's all about the intensity. It's all about this brawl they have all over the entire arena in Atlanta. And honestly, I was sitting in the crowd at that point. I was watching this match and I forgot that I'm watching a match with 2 guys I already know, right? I had already met Mr. Storm, I think it was actually one of the live shows that we had with NWA, that we were working security. It may have been one of the pop-up shows or even NWA 70, that I met Mr. Storm at. And, such a nice man, such a nice guy, an absolute class act. And then, with Jax, I've been around Jax forever because, again, this is Crimson's tag team partner for years of the War Kings. He had helped fine tune a lot of my training that I had in that school. So, you know, I know these two guys, you know, outside of professional wrestling, and then seeing them tear each other up through that entire arena. Like, I completely forgot that I knew these two men, and it just looked like two guys that just had some serious beef with each other. To see the hate that I felt in Jax's eyes for Tim Storm, and knowing the story of how that worked, especially how they explained it on television, like, was fantastic. So watching it in the crowd, like, I think the match was great, and I'm glad that, like, I feel like somebody at NWA was doing me a favor, because unfortunately after Jax passed away, they did finally put that match back up, you know, on YouTube, so everybody can go out and watch it. And I was like, maybe somebody was listening to me talk about how that was my favorite match ever. How that's my favorite NWA match to watch from now until the end of time. It has always been my favorite for a very long time. That is the match, and understanding that story just makes it even better. I think it's the one match that I can watch a bunch of times and never get tired of it, but I still think that match is 10 times better if you actually got to see it in person. Not getting to see it in person is a huge disservice. So the 300, 400 people that were there in Atlanta got to see an absolute classic. And I feel bad for everybody who didn't get to see it. But then another big favorite of mine is another one that, like, hey, you had to be there to see it to really understand how great it is. And it was two of my trainers, Crazy Steve and Jeremiah Plunkett. I was still watching as a fan, and it was a casket match they had for Tried and True Pro. It is my favorite match that I've ever seen in person, live on an independent show. So just talking about independence, that's my absolute favorite match I've ever seen. You know, absolutely incredible stuff there. Kind of can't get it out of my head, you know? And then I guess I'll go with one of the very, very cold take answers that everybody says, which should be Taker and Triple H at WrestleMania. I mean, it's not going to be hard to pick that last match that they had, that last coming together, that last clash, because it was meant to be an absolute classic match. And that's exactly what it was. Like, and plus I'm a little bit biased. My first favorite wrestler of all time was Undertaker. My current favorite wrestler of all time, and the second favorite wrestler I've had of all time, is Triple H. So you're putting both of my favorites, my all-time favorites, together. I'm going to enjoy that match, you know?
See, that was the first WrestleMania that I actually got to watch live on pay-per-view with friends. It was a Monday morning here in Australia, and I may or may not have skipped school in my final year of school to watch WrestleMania, but, you know.
Hey, that's the best reason to do it. That's the absolute best reason to do it.
I'd hate to think how many times I've watched that Cell match, but there's some great matches there, though. Holy crap.
Oh yeah, I didn't make any safe choices.
Just out of curiosity, is that casket match on YouTube or anything like that?
I think it actually is, because I looked it up because I wanted to watch it again a few times. I would tell people about it, and they were like, "Oh, I never saw it." And I was like, "Oh, well, it's on DVD. I think you may still be able to get it on highspots.com, but I'm pretty for sure there's somebody that did record it, and I meant to add it to like a wrestling playlist that I had of a bunch of matches I really liked. But it is on YouTube. I remember seeing it on YouTube a few years ago. So the casket match is still there. It is absolutely wonderful. If anything, for years after that match, we were still carrying that casket around. So we had storage units where we had all the stuff for like TNT. So we had the old Monday Night Nitro mats or whatever from the outside. Some of them still have Hogan's blood stayed into it and stuff like that, right? And Oh yeah, and that Tried and True ring, that was actually one of the first 4-sided rings from TNA. So that was kind of crazy. We had that. So we had a lot of wrestling history at Tried and True Pro. But that casket it was always one of the worst things to deal with, was the casket, because it was dented and all sprayed up, and it's like, hey, why are we still keeping this casket? Like, I guess it was just like Crimson thought maybe we'd have another casket match eventually, but we have one that's slightly used casket for another casket match, but it always stayed in that unit with those same Nitro mats that we eventually stopped using, because we used them for NWA for a little bit until Billy got tired of them.
without going on too much of a rant, we've got a company here in Australia called MXW. They've actually just had Brian Kendrick on their shows, and they're about to have him again on the shows, which I'll talk about in the actual outro. But they had a casket match, and they've had a couple now. But the owner of the company, he had nowhere to put the casket, so he literally just had it at the end of his driveway. Just like he had it was a garage, so like it was sheltered, but there was like no door. So like if you're going past his house, like whether you're walking past his house, driving past his house, there's just a random ass casket just in this dude's fucking driveway.
I mean, where else are you going to put it?
Okay, so the last official wrestling question, you can always answer this whether it's, we've had people answer it completely fantasy, we've had people answer it realistically, we've had some people say, I'm not going to answer that because I'm not that much of a mark, so you can answer it in any interpretation of this that you like. But the last official wrestling question is just, who is your ultimate dream opponent and what is the dream stipulation?
Oh, ultimate dream opponent? I would say, get me a match. It would have to be a tag match because I absolutely love tag wrestling. I would still love to have my best friend as my tag team partner. And, it's hard to pick one tag team here. It really is. But I would probably say I'm teetering on like 3 teams. You know what? I'm just going to go with Harlem Heat. So like me and Miggs, the big leaguers, because we thought that was a funny name. Going against Harlem Heat, man, and the stipulation, I think just a regular normal tag team match. Like I love my traditional matches or whatnot. Because we could definitely go for a stipulation, but hey, me, I'm not. I love watching a ladder match. Please don't put me in one. Please don't put me in one. I like my life the way it is. Yeah. So yeah, I think that would probably be the match. Is just have like a normal tag match or whatnot between myself and my best friend going against Harlem Heat in their prime. WCW Tag Team Champions Harlem Heat.
I can 110% get behind that answer. I'm a sucker for some. I'm really indifferent with Booker when it comes to his commentary. I somehow love it and hate it at the same time. But as a wrestler, massive fan of Booker T. So I 100% get behind that. And Harlem Heat, man, we could do an entire podcast episode on their matches just as a tag team. So that's an answer that I'll take. Pure wrestling, tag team wrestling is my favorite as well. Like, especially like if it's done well, like just a traditional. I mean, obviously this comes down to the storytelling aspect, but if you can have like a traditional match first, and if that leads to a stipulation match, that's fine. Like build a rivalry, but just know at its core, just 2 teams going at each other. I think as far as I'd go with it, because like my favorite stipulation per se is TLC, but as far as I'd go with a regular tag match is like a 2 out of 3 falls or something like that. Like I just want the classic tag team match. Give me a heel team, a face team, and just the old school tag team fucking Heat. That's my stuff. But we always ask a non-wrestling question, kind of like as a fun fact before we get into all the plugs and stuff. Try our best to tailor it to the individual we're talking to. The other day when I was messaging you, it was 2 a.m. your time, and you mentioned that you were replaying Ocarina of Time, which is my favorite Zelda game of all time, especially the OG 64 version. I'm still pissed off because there's one of the dungeons I could never beat. My sister beat the dungeon for me, and she always held it against me right up until I was the first one to beat Ganondorf before her. So suck on that. What is your favorite Legend of Zelda game? And alternatively, what is your all-time favorite video game in general?
Favorite Legend of Zelda game? Oh, man. Because, like, I want to see Ocarina of Time, but that's such a cold take. Honestly, like, I mean, I've played Ocarina of Time. I've beaten it more than any other one. Like, I would probably say... you know what? I'm going to be a little bit obscure with this because I remember this was probably the best experience I had overall, where I just had fun the entire way through. There was no water temple moment like in Ocarina of Time where you're just like, oh, this sucks. Or either where like, the OG 64 version of like Ocarina of Time, the problem is that they hold your hand so much and you can't just skip a lot of the dialogue, because I'm playing through it again for like the millionth time, right? playing it on Nintendo Switch Online, and I'm like, oh god, I forgot how much you couldn't just skip what people were saying, especially with that stupid owl who keeps coming up after you, right? God, I hate him. But like, dude, I get it. I know how to press the A button. I know how to do Z targeting. Like, come on, bro. They already taught me. You do not have to keep telling me what to do. Let me adventure. Let me explore. But the best one I've ever played, start to finish, everything was great. Had no issues anywhere, and it only made me want to play more. And also, I 100%ed it because it was that good on the first run. Was Legend of Zelda: Link Between Worlds, which is like, I guess it just feels like a different imagining of Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past, you know, with some different mechanics, but it's still just so much of its own game. It's just really good.
It's funny that you bring up the water temple though, because that was the one that my sister had to help me with, because that's just no. Why would you do that to a child?
Exactly.
What about video games in general? Do you have like a favorite game off the top of your head if it is different to the Zelda game?
Oh, absolutely, easily. It's Donkey Kong Country 2, Diddy Kong's Quest.
That's almost like an obscure reference at this point, which is kind of sad, but that pops me. I don't have it at the moment just because of funds, but when I got my Switch, I've had my Switch since November of 2023, and I still don't have a single game for Switch that isn't free. I literally just jam Disney Speedstorm with my wife. That's literally it. But I had the Nintendo sub for a bit, and I was jamming. Started Donkey Kong Country, the first one, and I was like, I swear I don't remember it being this hard when I was a kid. Like, about halfway through that game, and I rage quit. I was just like, nope.
Oh yeah, just because like it's the most raw version of Donkey Kong, just because like, especially with all the country games, because there is no hover mechanic. I mean, Donkey Kong crazy enough, he is the worst character in his own game, because Diddy is the superior one because he's faster, he can jump farther, he can jump higher or whatnot. Donkey Kong is only better because of the fact that he has the ground pound, and then he also has a heavier weight to him, so he can actually kill almost every enemy in the game that can be killed by the character. He can just do it with his body weight, and Diddy Kong can't. So like, it's funny how much harder that game is, and you get to Donkey Kong Country 2, and they have to make that game even harder because the game naturally, just with having Dixie and then having a slightly buffed Diddy Kong, it's easier naturally. It's crazy.
With that being said, MIMS, what are words? Thank you once again for coming on the show, and some of these answers that you've given have been highly detailed, and I really appreciate that. But where can we find you on social media? Do you have any merch for sale? And since we do have listeners in the US, where can we find you at upcoming events?
So it will be really_MIMS or really MIMS, all is one word. That is my handle for anything that's actually important. So when it comes to the X account that I have for NWA and promoting NWA on X, which is on X every Tuesday at 6:05 p.m. Eastern Standard Time until July 29th, and we will be on Roku. We'll be on Roku. I think it's still going to be around the same day, but I think a little bit later, maybe at 8 p.m. Don't quote me on that. Look at all the different articles they have up right now talking about when our new show will be on the air, and then also watch NWA Power on X right now until July 29th. You will know all the details as soon as they come out, and the extra announcements that may be coming forward in the meantime, they'll still be coming out. You can find those first there, or either on my social medias at really_MIMS. So X, Instagram, Xbox, that's all where the really _MIMS or really MIMS is at. As for my merch, so I have merch at angrylemonade.net, or is it .com? .net. We're going to say angrylemonade.net /MIMS. So that should have my full collection. That's going to have a bit of my older merch. So the Super Mario inspired Super MIMS shirt, the X MIMS or the X Magnum Muscle X-Men merch styled shirt that I have with my former tag team partner Jack Draper. There's a few more Big Strong MIMS shirts that are there. They're very classic. They've always sold pretty well, and they're pretty great shirts. They feel pretty great, and they look pretty great, so you should buy them. Or either you could come up with some of my merch that's on nationalwrestlingalliance.com in the merch section. I have my first trading cards up from Kayfabe Cardboard. It's a part of the first set of cards we're running for the NWA that include myself, the NWA World Heavyweight Champion, the NWA World Women's Champion, and then a lot of other champions are going to be in that first run of cards. So there's going to be even more cards in the next couple sets. And then also I have my first shirt on NWA's merch site with the Annoyer and Destroyer shirt with myself, Big Strong MIMS and Black G's, my other half to the group that we like to call the Winner's Circle, because what we do is we win. So what are you doing? But when it comes to the next shows that I'll be at, my calendar is going to be full of shows with the NWA and then also in the Georgia area. I just recently got introduced to Deep South Wrestling, so I'll be doing a lot of shows with them in the Atlanta area and just in the Georgia area. So I'll be jumping back and forth between Deep South Wrestling, Premier All-Star Wrestling, a newer promotion that runs the North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, and Alabama areas. So I'll be at more of the Georgia shows. So I'll be there on July 19th. For Premier All-Star Wrestling, but also I will be in Deep South Wrestling. I will be at one of their next shows on July 13th in Atlanta. But before all that, we have NWA, the Big Kahuna. We will be in Tampa at We Do Studios filming more of NWA Power. We'll be filming that on July 1st. That'll be this upcoming Tuesday. And then after that, the next thing you can look forward to is going to be NWA 77, which is going to be in Huntington, New York. So not too far from New York City, basically New York City. If I remember correctly, I think that's going to be on August 16th. If I'm wrong, it's August 11th. But you can find that out on nationalwrestlingalliance.com, where you can get your tickets. Or at nwaliveevents.com. It'll take you right there. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, I love that he's just got all the links down put. He's just like, it could be this, but it could also be this. But also, this is the official link, so go see for yourself.
Oh, yeah. I'm a company man.
I was actually just looking at your angry lemonade store. I want that the iconic design. That looks cool. It's simple and effective. I like that.
Oh, yeah. I love it.
$40 Australian, which is not too bad, but I'd have to have a look at seeing how much the shipping is. But definitely want to get that shirt. That looks cool. But I think
it's one of my favorites.
Thank you for coming on, and as I said just before, like just the detail in some of the answers you gave is very much appreciative. It makes my job so much easier. You answered questions that I didn't even ask, so that makes life so much easier. But I was really looking forward to this, and I've had such a good chat here. And once again, my wife did want to apologize that she had to bail out on this one again, but it is what it is, and hopefully we can chat to you again in the future. But just appreciate you for giving us guys a chance, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your Tuesday evening. I suppose it's closing on midnight now, so I should probably let you go. But closing in on 10 p.m. What is math?
Yeah, what is math? What is time? Time ain't real. But
thank you for coming on, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your Tuesday evening, and hopefully I can talk to you again in the future.
Absolutely, anytime, man.
Thank you very much, Mims.
Yeah, have a good one, brother.
Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, that was Big Strong Mims. I was almost going to call this episode Big Strong Boy before we'd actually recorded it, but then I realized, one, that's probably copyright infringement, but two, I think after hearing that, definitely getting it handled. I was almost going to change it to getting shit handled, but then I was just like, no, do the exact quote basically that Mims himself said was getting it handled, and I thought that was a great tagline for everything that you guys just heard. As I said, tried my best to wrap it up in a nice little bow in one sentence with the description, and then I said fate, discipline, future goals, perspective. I think that was a good way to wrap up everything you guys just heard. And again, we talked for just on an hour and a half, so we managed to squeeze quite a lot into that conversation. And I'm just very appreciative of MIMS for that, and just being an open book and giving this podcast a chance. And we're so close, like pushing up on our goals for this year. And it's, only just halfway through the year. So if we can keep doing this, keep pushing them out, keep getting really cool guests like this. Now, obviously, our main focus is still, for the most part, going to be Australian wrestling and local wrestling, because the whole point of having, this podcast is there's a lot of people in Australia that I know personally whose story deserves to be told. And it's not just because, they're acquaintances or in some cases friends. It's just that because of how cliquey wrestling is, people's talent sometimes gets swept under the rug. I'm not going to get political, but that was literally the whole point of me starting this podcast back in 2021. One, I needed something to do, but two, I just love talking wrestling. So I'm like, if I can talk wrestling with other people that like talking wrestling, and they can kind of, not to sound vain, because it's still a very small time podcast in comparison to some other ones, like say like a Chris Van Vliet or, a Jim Cornette or something like that. But if I can help people shine a spotlight on what they do while I get to chill and chat about wrestling for an hour and a half, 2 hours, however long the conversation may or not be, then that's a win in my book. And I just, hopefully, we've been picking up some steam ourselves, though, and hopefully we can keep picking up steam ourselves. Obviously my focus is the guests, 100%, but I do appreciate that we have been building steam, because the more steam we get, the more, more bucket list guests that I can get, the more episodes that we'll be able to pump out, etc., etc. I had an actual word that I was going to use, and literally as I was saying that, my brain just went, pfft. So sorry, but no, the point I was trying to make was I'm appreciative of everyone that comes on here, and in my opinion, everyone is equal. But at the end of the day, when you talk about MIMS, he is representing one of the most prestigious wrestling companies of all time. And just as a professional wrestling fan, that sole fact isn't lost on me, that he would still give me the time of day. And I appreciate that. And I'm going to repeat that 100,000 times. And again, I'm not trying to say that as a backhanded compliment or comment rather to anyone else that we have had on, because they're not in the NWA, but it's professional wrestling, and it's fucking awesome that I've been able to, and along with Nova as well, kind of build this platform where people are, willing to take a chance on us. And I just really, really appreciate that, without ranting for far too much longer. But with that being said, check mine and Nova's link trees. Obviously, both of our link trees contain all of the podcast socials as well. My link tree specifically also contains the Amazon wishlist, if you're so inclined, the Pro Wrestling Tees, the GoFundMe. As I say every week, we don't need it as much as we do when it was started, but every little bit does still help when I'm unable to work. Times are tough for everyone, though. I'm not going to sit here, beg and, plead and whatever. Y'all do you. But also the Patreon. The Patreon, if you are a Patreon subscriber already, you're getting this episode like a week and a half in advance. But usually Patreon subscribers with early access get at least 2 days early. But yeah, this one's going out extra early. But as low as $5 dues. I think the current conversion is about $2.40 US dollars. I just say $2.50 just to round it up. But yeah, for the lowest tier, that early access tier, it's affordable. Appreciate it. If you're a tier 2 subscriber and up, you'll get instant access to my children's book 1 in the 3-book miniseries. I have started, we're trying to work on the illustrations again very recently. It's a slow process just because the headaches and the blurred vision from the cataracts are, my eyes are worse now than they were before the initial cornea transplant because of this cataract, which sucks, but it is what it is. But no, I'm trying to get back into that. I want to get all 3 out before I release physical copies on Amazon, because I'm thinking about, because they are so small, thinking about combining the 3 and putting them all in the one book sort of thing. But yeah, immediate access to that it is the pinned post on the Patreon page. It's roughly $6 US, $10 Australian. The tier number 3 obviously is a very cool one, because you get to watch the video footage of when we do watch-alongs. You actually also, there's an option there to pick the topic for an episode for that month that you are a subscriber. So whether that be a watch-along or a top 10 or a Markapalooza subject or you join the Markapalooza episodes is what I was trying to say. And then, of course, the top tier is the Supernova tier. I obviously don't have the high-pitched voice like Nova. Even if I didn't have a sore throat, I couldn't do that, but I still try and do it every week just because it pops myself, and I know it pops some of you guys when I just blatantly make a fool of myself. And then, I got no problem doing that. Obviously, if you're a top-tier subscriber, you get shout-outs in the intro and outro to every episode for the entire month that you're a sub. And as I've said many, many times, if we get enough Patreon subscribers with the top tier, we will be doing Patreon exclusive giveaways of some of my wrestling memorabilia and stuff to, one, pay bills, but two, just to try and not be as materialistic. Speaking of giveaways, just to circle back, Facebook page, trying to get to 500 followers for our giveaway. Go have a look at the Facebook page for more details on that. My Crossfire graphics, I'm trying to get back to 300 followers after calling a bunch of bots and stuff, doing a giveaway of a free custom 8x10 once I hit 300 followers. I'd like to think that for a legally blind dude, my 8x10 specifically are very high quality. I'm very proud of them. I know TJP, the one that I gifted him at World Series Wrestling, he now has framed on his mantle at his house. His wife framed it because they both enjoyed it that much, and that's fucking insane to me. And obviously the one that I made for Brian Cage is probably one of my favorite ones, and surprisingly, as complex as it looks, it was one of the most easiest ones because I just got locked in and threw it together. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Doing a giveaway, that's all there. But of course, speaking of Instagram, follow MIMS at really_MIMS on Instagram. Same for Twitter/X. Got to call it X. Got to try and remember. But yeah, they will both be linked below as well. And then, of course, moving on to the events. Obviously, in July, we have Deep South Wrestling, as he mentioned, and Premier All-Star Wrestling, as he mentioned. Both of these shows are happening in Georgia. Couldn't find links to the two shows that Mims did mention in this conversation, but obviously just go check out Premier All-Star Wrestling on socials as well as Deep South to have a look. You'll find it. Yada, yada, yada. And of course, the NWA socials, but I'll get to that show in just a moment. But on July 11th, back here, Australia side, July 11th through to July 13th, Brian Kendrick is returning to MXW, and they is doing a 3-day tour across various parts of Victoria, very rural areas of Victoria. So go check that out, especially the Sunday show in Horsham, because it's a fan voting show. You can vote on socials right now. The link for that will be below. And Extreme Capital Wrestling Guilty Verdict, July 19th. Get your tickets for that. As we've said many, many times, both the tag champs and the heavyweight champs have odds stacked against them. So make sure you go check out Extreme Capital Wrestling on socials. Find out all about that, buy a ticket, etc., etc., etc. And then, I can't believe that I'm actually I'm not expecting to sell a ticket from me putting the link below, but we do have fans in the US very frequently. I just don't know what area, and I stress that every time. So if you are one of those fans and you have the means to get to New York on Saturday, August 16th, I believe the event actually starts at either 12 p.m. or 1 p.m. Australian time on the Sunday from what I saw when I looked at the event page. But obviously that doesn't matter. If you're in the US of A and you're in New York, it starts Saturday, August 16th. It is the NWA 77th anniversary, and that's fucking mind-blowing to me that obviously Mims is just an individual and he represents himself, and I'm not going to claim to say that I'm working with the NWA here in any fashion, but the fact that I'm able to sit here and in a way officially help promote an NWA show is kind of cool. And if this podcast sells one ticket, that would be absolutely insane. But of course, the link for that is below, as well as all the things that Mim said about checking out NWA Power. They've just got that really cool deal, so you guys should go read up on that. I don't even know if we have Roku here in Australia. I need to look into that because I usually just watch NWA Power I used to watch it on YouTube. I used to watch it on Fight. I've watched it on a few different platforms here and there. But yeah, check out that. NWA 77th anniversary, August 16th. Then, back here to Australia, August 30th, ICW Australia, Indestructible. Once again, the last event was a private event and it worked very well, so they're doing it again. So, all tickets are just $8 for this event. All tickets just $8. And contact ICW Australia through their Facebook page or through their email. The email will be linked below to book your spots for that. And then, of course, the one that I talk about a lot, and I probably talk too much about it, but it's very near and dear to me, ICW Central West, October 11th. As I record this intro/outro, the last count was only 38 tickets remaining. Of course, you hear me say it every week, Emma passed from the same type of tongue cancer that my dad did back in 2019. It's been a very hectic 6 years. It'll actually be 6 years on the 15th of August since my dad passed. And High Octane, James Lanham, one of my best friends in life, and the fact that his late girlfriend passed from the same cancer, we're bonded both by wrestling and by tragedy, and it sucks, but it's life, and we're trying to make the best out of the situation. And the fact that James, High Octane, and Emma's family have banded together to do this charity, and it has raised so much money, and the money raised has saved a handful of life already, including locally in the Central West area where the event is happening. I say it every week, but I cannot stress how important that is. And I do have 15 Radiation Kick shirts left over from the last show that we did last year. Obviously, I sold half of the stock that I did have, plus a nice chunk of merch, and I donated close to $300 myself to the charity, which is insane that I was able to do that. But yeah, I've got 4 medium, 4 large, 7 extra large, $30 each, $10 per shirt goes to the charity. Obviously, if you order bulk shirts, more than that will go to the charity, but guaranteed $150 to be raised for the charity with the remaining stock that is there. You can pre-order them to pick them up at the show, or for an extra $10, I can post them to you if you're in Australia. But yeah, the link for that will be below. The song of the week this week was Big Strong by Downstate. The match of the week this week was Crazy Steve versus Jeremiah Plunkett in a casket match for tried and true pro wrestling 0 Hour 2017. I'm going to get out of here now before we push the 2 hour mark, because y'all have been listening to me rant for too long. You were here for MIMS, you weren't here for me. I'm self-aware enough to know that. But thank you again to MIMS for coming on and having a chat, and just, yeah, I really hope you guys enjoyed this conversation. Let me know what your favorite part of this conversation was. I'm going to get the flock out of here. I am the essential John L. Crossfire. You wonderful, amazing human being, you're doing amazing. You were just caught in conversation, shaka-laka-laka, and titty sprinkles.